I poured through every single Jedi to make this, the Canon Jedi Iceberg. In this video, I discuss this diagram, moving from the Jedi so common your dog knows them, to some of the most unknown Jedi in canon. The diagram only includes Jedi who I believe to be notable enough to make it on here, as there are far too many Jedi to include on one iceberg. But trust me, there's some really interesting Jedi on this iceberg, especially in the lower layers. I hope you enjoy. Layer 1. The characters we all know. First up is Anakin Skywalker, the chosen one himself. Born on Tatooine to Shmi Skywalker, he was trained as a Jedi at a late age, eventually falling to the dark side and becoming Darth Vader, before turning back to the light. And he's one of the most iconic characters in all Star Wars. Next is Obi-Wan Kenobi. He was the master of Anakin Skywalker, and also trained Luke for a little while. He fought in the Clone Wars, and is all out just a very cool character. Next is Ahsoka Tano, first introduced in the Clone Wars. She is the Padawan of Anakin Skywalker, and survived quite a long while even past the Empire's reign. And now she has her own Disney Plus show. Next is on to Luke Skywalker. He is the protagonist of the original trilogy, and we follow him from humble farboy to Jedi who saves the galaxy. After this, there's Yoda, the wise Jedi Master who lived 900 years. Once the Grand Master of the Jedi Order, he hid away on the planet Dagobah when the Empire took over, and eventually trained Luke Skywalker. Then we've got Rey, the protagonist of the sequel trilogy. She is the granddaughter of Palpatine, and eventually managed to defeat him at the end of the trilogy. Next there's Leia, the twin sister of Luke Skywalker, who was strong in the Force herself, although she did give up training as a Jedi, which means we didn't get to see her full potential as a Jedi. And then after this is Din Grogu. Grogu grew up in the Jedi Temple, and so was being trained a little bit, but then obviously that was cut short by Order 66. So he's not that much of a Jedi, but we're all familiar with him. He joined Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, and they travelled around together, and their story is still continuing right now. And finally, there's Ben Solo, the son of Han and Leia. He fell to the dark side, but was eventually redeemed at the end of the sequel trilogy. And now, onto Layer 2. Things are getting slightly obscurer now, but you'll still be familiar with these characters. So first is Kanan Jarrus. Kanan Jarrus trained as a Jedi in the Jedi Temple under the name Caleb Doom, and survived Order 66. After that he changed his name to Kanan Jarrus, and he rebelled against the Empire. He first appeared in the books Rise of the Rebels and Chopper Saves the Day. Next is the Grand Inquisitor. He was a Padawan who was once a Jedi Temple guard, but after Order 66, he betrayed the Jedi and became an Inquisitor. His first appearance was initially in Rise of the Rebels, on a poster, but this was retconned, with him now being one of the Temple guards who brought Barriss Offee before Chancellor Palpatine. After this, there's Sabine Wren. When we first met her, she was simply a Mandalorian, and while she did do some very cool stuff, like wielding the Darksaber, she didn't really become a Jedi until the Ahsoka show. There we even see her eventually learn to use the Force. Next is Cal Kestis. Cal Kestis survived the Jedi Purge, and eventually joined a group of survivors. He went round the galaxy trying to fight the Empire in little battles. His story is still continuing, but he first appeared in Jedi Fallen Order. After this there's Varosha Anasaia. She was a person created through a vergence in the Force, and she was actually part of one whole person who split in two, creating her and May. She first appeared in The Acolyte. Next is the Stranger. He was once a Jedi Padawan of Vanesh Ruro, but he later left the Order and fell to the dark side. Darth Plagueis then trained him as a Sith warrior, and he later took on May to train as an Acolyte. However, he ended up getting betrayed by May, but later took on her sister Osha. The Stranger first appeared in The Acolyte. Next is Turbin. He was one of the 4 Jedi stationed on Brendok in The Acolyte, who tested May and Osha for Force sensitivity and who killed the coven of witches there. Then we've got Count Dooku. He was once a faithful Jedi, but then fell to the dark side due to the corruption in the Order. He then joined Emperor Palpatine and eventually died to the hands of Anakin Skywalker. After this, there's Ezra Bridger. Ezra Bridger was eventually brought in by a rebel crew led by Kanan Jarrus, who trained him as a Jedi. He then actually survived the whole Imperial era, being stuck in another galaxy on Peridia. He first appeared in the books Rise of the Rebels, Ezra and the Pilot, and Ezra's Gamble. Next there's Jeki Lon. She was a feline-human hybrid, and she was the Padawan of Sol. She died on Kothar to the Stranger. After this, there's Seer Junda. She was a Jedi who survived Order 66, but fell to the dark side and decided to shut herself off from the Force. She later met up with Cal Kestis, and even fought Vader twice, dying the second time. She even helped establish the Hidden Path to help Jedi after Order 66. She first appeared in the Jedi Fallen Order Dark Temple comic series ahead of the video game Jedi Fallen Order. Next we've got Plo Koon. He was a Kel Dor who became a Jedi Master and served on the Jedi Council. Unfortunately, he died in Order 66. And fun fact, he was actually named after the live-action creature effects supervisor, Nick Dudman's son, who was called Plo Koon in the first year of his life. Plo Koon first appeared in The Phantom Menace. Now we've got Aayla Secura. Aayla Secura was a Twi'lek. She fought in the Battle of Geonosis and throughout the Clone Wars, but died in Order 66. She was originally from the Legends comics, Star Wars Republic, but George Lucas decided to add her to Attack of the Clones, based on some comic book cover art he'd seen. Next, there's Baylan Skoll. Baylan Skoll was a Jedi who survived Order 66, and then went his own way. He survived through the entire Imperial era, and went on to serve Morgan Elspeth. He first appeared in the Ahsoka show. After this, there's Indara. She was another of the 4 Jedi who appeared in the Acolyte and went to Brendok. Next, there's Mace Windu. Mace Windu was a powerful Jedi Master on the Jedi Council, and he wielded a unique purple lightsaber. He first appeared in The Phantom Menace. Then there's Yord Thandar. He was a Jedi in the Acolyte, who took great pride in his appearance. He sadly died on Kothar to the Stranger. Next there's Quinlan Vos. He was a Kithar Jedi, and he was eventually sent on a mission to assassinate Count Dooku. On this mission he fell in love with Ventress, and eventually even fell to the dark side before being redeemed. He was created by author John Ostrander and artist Jan Jossema. George Lucas liked him so much that he wanted to include him in the Order 66 sequence in Revenge of the Sith, and an animatic was even made, but it was never filmed. A line referencing this did make it into the movie though, and retroactively his first appearance was actually in The Phantom Menace. Anyway, now on to the Inquisitors. I'm going to rush through a bunch here, and just to be clear, I've listed these as Jedi, as in the reference book Secrets of the Sith, it says that all of the Inquisitors were former Jedi. So, we've got the second sister, Trilla Sudden, the fourth sister, Lyn Rakish, the fifth brother, the seventh sister, the eighth brother, the ninth sister, 3 unidentified Inquisitors, and then there's a few others which I haven't mentioned here, as they have their own entries on the iceberg. Also, the Inquisitors first appeared in Star Wars Rebels. Now we've got Sol. He was a Jedi who was the master of Jeki Lon. He had previously taken on Varosha Anasaia, lying to her about her past. This eventually cost him his life. He first appeared in the Acolyte. Next there's Asajj Ventress. She was a Dathomirian who was taken from her people. She eventually ended up being trained by a Jedi called Kai Narek, who sadly later died. Due to this, she fell to the dark side and eventually became an assassin for Count Dooku. She then later seemingly died, saving Quinlan Vos, but now is somehow back in the time of the Bad Batch. After this is Reva. Reva was an Inquisitor who took it upon herself to go after Obi-Wan Kenobi. This led to her being stabbed by Darth Vader, but she survived this and she went after Luke Skywalker and Tatooine, but didn't go through with killing him in the end. She only appeared in the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV series. After this is Kel Nacker, another Jedi who went to Brendok in the Acolyte. Next there's Vernestra Rwoh. She was a Mirialan who is quite notable for wielding a light whip. She was actually promoted to Jedi Knight at 15, making her the youngest to do so in a long time. She lived in the High Republic era. She first appeared in the book Light of the Jedi. Finally, there's Qui-Gon Jinn. He was a Jedi Master in the Republic era who trained Obi-Wan Kenobi and was trained by Count Dooku. He didn't agree fully with the Jedi in all things, which brought him into mild conflict with the Council sometimes. On to Layer 3 now. We start with Barriss Offee. Barriss Offee was a Mirialan Jedi who was the Padawan to Luminara and Julie. She fought in the Battle of Geonosis and the Clone Wars and eventually betrayed the Jedi Order, framing Ahsoka Tano. She did, however, survive Order 66 and was brought on to become an Inquisitor, but she ended up betraying the Empire. She first appeared in Attack of the Clones. Next is Agent Kolar. He was a Zabrak Jedi Master who was on the Jedi Council and was one of the 4 Jedi who went to arrest Chancellor Palpatine. He was originally actually meant to be Eve Koth, but this was changed due to Tux Akindoani not looking like Hassani Shapai. He first appeared in Attack of the Clones. After this is Bo Dakuna. In the Clone Wars, he was assigned to Republic Intelligence. He later survived Order 66 and started a family, but ended up being hunted down by Inquisitors. Due to this, he cut a deal with former colleague Lank Denvik to work as an Imperial agent. He later met and betrayed Cal Kestis, and so far he's only appeared in Jedi Survivor. Now there's Sifo Dyas. Sifo Dyas was a Jedi Master who actually earned a seat on the Jedi Council before the prequel trilogy. He foresaw the Clone Wars and believed the Republic needed an army, but was rejected by other Jedi. This led to his removal from the Council. However, Sifo Dyas secretly ordered a clone army, and the Sith hijacked this plan, sending the Pikes to kill him. He was first mentioned in Attack of the Clones, and first appeared in the Clone Wars as a hologram and in visions. Next is Ava Kriss. She was a prominent figure in the High Republic era, and she was one of the first Jedi to be revealed from the High Republic. She first appeared in the comic The Rise of Kylo Ren 3 as a hologram. After this is Jocasta Nu. She was the Chief Librarian at the time of Attack of the Clones and the Clone Wars. She did though sit on the Jedi High Council before the prequels. She first appeared in Attack of the Clones. Next is Kelleran Beck. He's a Jedi played by Ahmed Best. He actually first appeared in the kids' game show Jedi Temple Challenge in 2020, but later was brought in more prominently in The Mandalorian Chapter 20 in 2023, where he saved Grogu from Order 66. After this is Saisi Tin. He was an Iktochi Jedi who was one of the 4 Jedi who went to arrest Chancellor Palpatine, where he sadly died. Saisi Tin sat on the Jedi Council. He first appeared in The Phantom Menace. Next there's Yaddle. Yaddle was another member of Yoda's species, which is quite rare in canon. She sat on the Jedi Council and died trying to stop Count Dooku. She first appeared in The Phantom Menace. After this is Marok. Marok was an Inquisitor who served the Empire. He then later worked under Morgan Elspeth, which could be something to do with magic as he did erupt with green smoke when he died, but we don't really fully know what was going on there. He first appeared in Ahsoka. Now there's Pong Krell. He was a Basilisk Jedi who had no regard for the clones. He saw a vision of the coming fall of the Jedi and so betrayed the Jedi. He was eventually stopped though by a group of clones. After this is Taron Malicos. He was a Jedi who survived Order 66 and hid away on Dathomir. He turned to the dark side there, and ended up taking over the clan of Night Brothers. He also tried to influence Merrin into teaching him some magic. Eventually, Cal Kestis came to the planet, and the pair came into conflict. In the end, Cal Kestis and Merrin killed him. He first appeared in Jedi Fallen Order. Next is Depa Billaba. She was the master to Caleb Doom, aka Kanan Jarrus. She sat on the Jedi Council and died in Order 66. She first appeared in The Phantom Menace. After this is Coleman Trevor, commonly known as the Dinosaur Jedi. In the Battle of Geonosis, he bravely went to kill Count Dooku, but was shot dead by Jango Fett. He first appeared in Attack of the Clones. Next is Stellan Gios. He was a prominent figure in the High Republic era, and was also one of the first Jedi to be revealed. He reached the Jedi High Council, and was the master to Venestra Rho. He first appeared in Light of the Jedi. After this is Kit Fisto. Kit Fisto was a Nortolan Jedi who was on the Jedi Council. He fought throughout the Clone Wars, and at the end of it went to arrest Chancellor Palpatine, but was killed in the fight. He first appeared in Attack of the Clones. Alright, now we've got the Clone Wars younglings. These are Petro, Ganodi, Katuni, Biff, Zat and Gungi. They went to Ilum together and gathered their crystals there. After they were attacked by pirates, and then after that they rescued Ahsoka once she was taken by said pirates. They first appeared in the Clone Wars, and since then Gungi has actually returned in the Bad Batch. Next is Luminara and Julie. She was a Mirialan Jedi who was the master to Barriss Offee. She fought in the Battle of Kashyyyk and later died due to the Jedi Purge, and her body was used to trick other Jedi. She first appeared in Attack of the Clones. Now there's Shaak Ti. She was a Togruta Jedi, and let's just say she's known for dying a lot of times. Okay, so she only died once in canon, but there's a lot of other versions of events. So here's a quick list of them all. There's her being killed by Darth Vader in Order 66. There's her being killed by Grievous at the start of Revenge of the Sith. There's her being killed by Starkiller twice, as there was one which was the regular version and one which was the mobile version. And then there's her being killed by Vader in LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga, which is quite a funny interpretation of events. The one that is canon is her being stabbed by Vader in Order 66, as presented through a vision in the later Clone Wars TV show, and confirmed in the reference book Star Wars Galactic Atlas. She first appeared in Attack of the Clones. Next is Jaro Tapal. He was a Lasat Jedi who was the master of Cal Kestis. He died in Order 66, saving Cal. He first appeared in Jedi Fallen Order. Now there's Ki-Adi-Mundi. He was a Sarean Jedi, and we've seen him in the High Republic era and in the prequels era. He sat on the Jedi Council, and we later saw him die in Order 66. He first appeared in The Phantom Menace. After this, there's Dagan Gera. He was an Arcanian offshoot Jedi, and he discovered the planet Tanalorr through the Cobra Abyss. After the Jedi decided to abandon the planet, he fell to the dark side feeling betrayed, and he was put into a Bacta tank by Jedi Santari Khri, where he stayed for 200 years before being freed by Cal Kestis. He and Cal Kestis came into conflict, and Cal eventually killed him. He has only appeared in Jedi Survivor. Finally, there's the Order 66 youngling. This is the youngling who says,
"Master Skywalker, there are too many of them. What are we going to do?"
I just thought it'd be fun to include him on here, and in canon, he doesn't actually have a name yet. Now to Layer 4, and we start with one which I'm very happy with. This is Yarael Pooth. Yarael Pooth was a Quirmian Jedi. He lived through the High Republic era and into the prequels era, and he served on the Jedi High Council for a long time. He sadly died at some point between The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. The Phantom Menace was his first appearance. He is also our channel logo. Anyway, on to Eve Koth. Eve Koth was a Zabrak Jedi who sat on the Jedi High Council. He later left the Order and actually survived Order 66. He started a family and became a priest, but was later found and killed by Darth Vader. He first appeared in The Phantom Menace. Now there's Mogadana. Mogadana is a Jedi who we see interacting with Venestra Aurora a few times in The Acolyte. Next is Sin Dralig. He served as Battlemaster and Chief of Security of the Jedi Temple, and was the head of the Jedi Temple Guard, and was also a lightsaber instructor. He was nicknamed the Troll. He was later killed by Vader in Order 66. He was played by Nick Gillard, the prequel stunt coordinator, and his name is actually Nick Gillard's name reversed, sort of. He first appeared in Revenge of the Sith. After this is Eno Cordova. He was a scholar and archaeologist, and close friend of Qui-Gon Jinn. He foresaw the fall of the Jedi Order, and hid the holocron containing the list of all Force-sensitive children in the galaxy. He also helped set up the Hidden Path, and was sadly later killed by Bode. He first appeared in the Dark Temple comic series, but is better known for appearing in the Jedi games. Now, there's Skier. Skier was a Trandoshan Jedi. He fought in the Battle of Kur against the Nihil, which left him traumatized and without an arm, and he was gradually losing his connection to the Force. He struggled with temptations to the dark side, and even ended up being infested by the Drenger. However, he embraced the infection and the new arm which it formed, but he was almost taken over by the Drenger, and ended up ripping the Drenger from his body. Despite all this, he went on to fight going forwards. He first appeared in the Light of the Jedi book. Now there's Tar Vizsla. He was the first Mandalorian to become a Jedi, and created the famous Darksaber. He led the Mandalorians with this saber as Mandalore. He first appeared in Star Wars Rebels, Trials of the Darksaber, although the stories of the Darksaber itself goes back to the Clone Wars. Next there's Adi Gallia. She was a Falothian Jedi who sat on the Jedi Council. She died to Savage Opress in the Clone Wars. Adi Gallia first appeared in The Phantom Menace. Now onto the Clone Wars kidnapped Jedi. These are Khalifa, Omer and Jinx. These 3 Jedi were kidnapped by Trandoshans to be hunted. There they met Ahsoka, who encouraged them to fight against their hunters. Sadly, Khalifa died, but the others did manage to escape, along with Chewbacca. They only appeared in 2 episodes of the Clone Wars. Next is Coleman Kakaj. He was an Ongri Jedi who sat on the Jedi Council. He survived the initial Jedi Purge. He was originally meant to be Pablo Gil, but the Ongri in Episode 3 needed a new, higher quality model, and so was made a new character. His name is a nod to Rob Coleman, ILM's animation director at the time's son Jack. He first appeared in Revenge of the Sith. Now on to Centauri Kree. She was a friend of Dagan Gera and head scientist in research on Kobo matter. She chopped Dagan Gera's arm off and put him in a Bacta tank after he fell to the dark side. She programmed ZN-A4 to recover the key to Tanalorr, but the droid got trapped until Cal Kestis freed them. She's only appeared in Jedi Survivor. After this is Oppo Rancisis. He was a Fispiassian Jedi who served on the Jedi Council for quite a while. He was alive in the High Republic era and lived through to the prequel era. Also, he even survived Order 66, although we don't know for how long. He first appeared in The Phantom Menace. Next there's Evan Peel. He was a Lannic Jedi who was a great warrior and swordsman. He lost his eye to terrorists on his home planet, and he was actually thought to be more in touch with common people than some of the other Jedi. He died in the Clone Wars at the Citadel. Evan Peel first appeared in The Phantom Menace. Now there's Stas Ali. She was a Falothian Jedi who was the cousin to Adi Gallia, and she took Adi Gallia's seat after she died in the Clone Wars. Stassa Lee also died later, in Order 66. She first appeared in Attack of the Clones, replacing Adi Gallia. Fun fact, Lily Nyamasa wore Adi Gallia's costume when filming, as the original intention was for her to be Adi Gallia, but the filmmakers realised she didn't look like Jin Clark, who played Gallia before, and so they made her a new character. Next there's Tiplar and Tip Lee. These were Mickey twin sister Jedi. After Clone Trooper Tup's inhibitor chip malfunctioned, Tup shot Tiplar in the head. Tip Lee continued fighting in the war though, and later in the war went after Maul with Kenobi, but was killed by Dooku, who teamed up with Maul at that point. Tiplar and Tip Lee both appeared in the Clone Wars, and Tip Lee also appeared in one issue of the Son of Dathomir comic series. Now there's Tassie Loa. She was a Zygerian Jedi who was the Padawan to Yord Thandar. She has only appeared in The Acolyte. Next there's Terrace Ube, which is another Jedi which I quite like. He was a Kojin Jedi who was actually around in the High Republic era. He lived on into the prequel era and into the Clone Wars, and he served as a Jedi investigator and was an expert in the Coruscant underworld. He actually was on the Jedi High Council before the prequel trilogy. Also, he had a unique light blue lightsaber. By 9BBY, he was killed and entombed in the Fortress Inquisitorius. The character was actually based on an unused design for senators from The Phantom Menace. He has actually appeared in many places, including 11 Clone Wars episodes, although he only had a big role in one episode, which is Lightsaber Lost. After this is Imogen Dai, which can I just say, I love the name of this guy, it's so funny. He was a Nikto Jedi who fought in the Battle of Ryloth, where he sadly died. He was actually named after the fact that he was going to die in the episode, which is just such a hilarious gag behind the scenes. He first appeared in the Clone Wars. Next is Nardar Veb. He was a Mon Calamari Jedi trained by Kit Fisto. Unfortunately, he was forced to complete his training on his own, but he did succeed in this. In the Clone Wars, he was led to Grievous's lair, along with Kit Fisto. While there, he got overconfident, and ended up being killed by Grievous. He first appeared in the Clone Wars. Alright, now to Layer 5, which is where the iceberg gets a lot more interesting and we start getting to the deeper characters. So first is Rig Nima. Rig Nima was a Halisi consular Jedi doctor. At one point in the Clone Wars, Yoda was a patient of hers. She was actually based on early concept design of Mace Windu, drawn by Ian McCaig. She appeared in an episode of the Clone Wars. Next is Prime Jedi. This was the Jedi who founded the Jedi Order on Octu around 25,025 BBY. They first appeared in The Last Jedi, depicted through a mosaic, and they will be seen again in James Mangold's upcoming film about the dawn of the Jedi. After this is Seret and Terek. They were Kotabai Jedi who were non-binary bond twins, which means that they were closer than regular twins. Terek and Seret shared the same Jesalt mind and frequently finished each other's sentences, even when not in the same room. That's crazy, like what? They both first appeared in the High Republic 2 comic from 2021. Next is Set Jukasa. This was a Jedi who tried to escape in Order 66. Bail Organa actually witnessed him fighting and dying to some clone troopers. He was played by George Lucas's son, Jet Lucas, and first appeared in Attack of the Clones. After this is some Jedi from the kids' TV show Young Jedi Adventures. The three protagonists of this show are Kai Brightstar, Liz Soleil, and Nubs. They first appeared in Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures Meet the Jedi. Okay, so next is Pablo Gil. Pablo Gil was an Ongri Jedi who fought in the Battle of Geonosis. He was encouraged to take on a Padawan, but never did. He was named after ILM digital effects artist Pablo Hellman and visual effects producer Jill Brooks, taking each of their first names and mashing them together. He only appeared in Attack of the Clones. Okay, so now we've got Quickfire, High Republic Jedi Council. There's Char Roy, Zinith Tar, Ela Sutan, Dijuka, Gluf Andoy, Jorah Mali, Rana Kant, Solil Agra, Ada Lai Karo, Adampo, Keaton Murag, Terry Roseson, Efru Shin, and Selengius Yaralputh Operansis and Yaddle as previously mentioned. Then there's the Grandmasters, who are Zolaru, Pratri Vita, Raiki Saka, and Yoda as previously mentioned. Alright, now on to Nari. Nari was a near-human who survived Order 66. He hid on Tatooine and eventually found Kenobi there, who told him to keep a low profile. However, Nari was later found and hanged by the Inquisitors. He has only appeared in the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV series. Alright, on to Ty Yorick. Ty Yorick was a Philothian Jedi. She and fellow Padawan, Cleus Terradine, snuck off and entered the Yallo Shrine, which contained artifacts from the Yallo Fellowship, which were a group associated with the dark side. There they found a Vitalocron, which Terradine picked up, and it opened in his hands. The Yallo overtook Terradine, and he attacked Yorick. She tried to help him, but ended up having to kill him. After this, she left the Order. She then went into mercenary work, joining a band led by Karatu. She became a monster hunter, and was labelled as a saber for hire. Ty Yorick first appeared in The Rising Storm. Next there's Salandra Sho. She was a Jedi who carried a shield around, which she preferred to use over her lightsaber. This shield was actually hundreds of years old, passed down from Master to Padawan for many years. She first appeared in the High Republic, Quest for the Hidden City. After this is Ram Jomaram. After Vela was invaded by the Nihil, and placed behind their storm wall within the occlusion zone, he began operating as a vigilante known as the Scarlet Skull, in an attempt to fight back against the Nihil. He first appeared in The Rising Storm. First of all, can I just say how cool that name sounds? The Scarlet Skull. Just wow. Anyway, on to Torben Buck. Torben Buck was a Chagrian Jedi who served as a healer. And if you thought the Scarlet Skull was a cool nickname, wait until you hear this guy's nickname. His nickname was Buckets of Blood, which he sometimes even announced in battle. He first appeared in the High Republic Adventures 1 comic in 2021. Alright, now there's Cantum Sai. They were a Padawan to Yoda, and they later trained Lula Talisola. When the Force Sensitive, Zine Mrala, was brought to the Starlight Beacon after a Nihil attack, they argued that Mrala be allowed to train to become a Jedi, despite being too old, because she had already befriended Talisola and other Padawans. Cantum Sai first appeared in the High Republic Adventures 3 comic in 2021. And finally, onto Colt. Colt was an Aloxian Jedi who was left on the doorstep of Maz Kanata as a child, who raised him before sending him off to the Order. He was then trained and became a Jedi Knight, and served in the galaxy. He first appeared in the High Republic Adventures 1 comic in 2021. Okay, so now on to Layer 6. First there's Bolo Ropal. As an initiate, he had a favourite spoon that the other younglings constantly stole from him. This spoon eventually ended up with Kenobi. Ropal became the keeper of the Kyber Memory Crystal, which contained a list of every known Force-sensitive child in the galaxy. Cad Bane stole the holocron containing the crystal and tried torturing Bolo Ropal to get him to open it, but Ropal died from the torture. He first appeared in the Clone Wars. Next is Kirak Infala. He specialised in combat and ended up taking the Barash vow as a form of penance, separating himself from the Order. Due to this, he survived Order 66. Later he was found by Vader, who then fought him. Infala pushed Vader off of a cliff, but Vader came back and killed him, flooding a nearby city to make Infala stop to help them instead of fighting. He first appeared in the Darth Vader 2 comic. Next is Dead Jedi Camino. I named them this as they are actually unnamed in canon. This was the Jedi carried out by clones in the first episode of The Bad Batch. I put them at this level because I remember back when the episode aired, there was a lot of discussion about this Jedi and many theories about who they were, but they look to be a new Jedi. So far, they've only appeared in the Bad Batch. After this is the sixth brother, Bill Valen. In a training session, Vader fought him and chopped his lower left arm off to teach him the lesson of loss. At one point he chased after Ferren Barr, who turns the Purge Troopers on the Inquisitors. In this situation he severed the Ninth Sister's leg and left her behind to save herself. He then later found Ahsoka, and they fought, with Ahsoka not having any lightsabers to fight back with. In the fight, Ahsoka pulled the crystals from his lightsaber as he tried to deactivate its spinning, and the lightsaber exploded in his face, killing him. These crystals were then purified and were used to make Ahsoka's white lightsabers. He first appeared in the Ahsoka book. Next is Lebon. Lebon was a Solonian Jedi Master in the High Republic era. She fought in the Battle of Jeddah and was turned to stone by the Great Leveler. She first appeared in Peace and Unity from the High Republic 1 comic in 2022 as a hologram. I also just think she has a cool character design, which is why I put her on here. Next is Kai Narek. Kai Narek was a Jedi who took his initiate trials at the same time as Qui-Gon Jinn. He became a Jedi Knight and was sent to Rat-Attack, and he became stranded there. During an attack by Weequay raiders, he saw 5-year-old Ventress use the Force to throw one of the raiders, so he took her in and trained her. They stayed there on the planet together for 21 years, and Kai Narek was eventually killed by a raider who sniped him in the back. This set Ventress off down the path of the dark side. He first appeared in an episode of the Clone Wars in a flashback. Alright, now we've got the Lost 20. This was a group of 20 Jedi Masters who became disillusioned with the Jedi Order. These Jedi were remembered in the form of busts stored in the Jedi archives. This was first discussed in a deleted scene from Attack of the Clones, and canonized by reference book Star Wars Absolutely Everything You Need to Know. The members who we know of are Dooku, Darth Krall, and Trennis. Next is Chirth Mayota. He was a High Republic master who trained Avar Kriss. He served as a seeker, searching for Force-sensitive younglings. This included bringing Zint and Sifo Dyas into the Order. Maz Kanata had a statue of him in her castle on Takodana, and that was his first appearance in The Force Awakens. After this is Ord Innocent. He was a Skrilling Jedi Master. He was killed in the Clone Wars and was impersonated by shapeshifter Cato Parasiti, as part of a plan by Cad Bane to steal a holocron from the Jedi Temple. He's only appeared in a Clone Wars episode as a dead body. Now there's Barash Sylvain. She was a Cage High Republic Jedi Master. She declared herself the sister of Ikrokian Jedi Porter Engul. She made a mistake on Gansavar, believing the lies of the prince and princess there, which led to a great amount of death and violence. Therefore, she vowed afterwards to remove herself from what the Jedi do, until she can hear what the Force wants her to do more clearly. This was the creation of the Barash Vow, which is named after her. She first appeared in the High Republic The Blade comic series. Okay, so now we've got some other Jedi Council members who weren't on the Council in the High Republic era. So there's Eula Braylon, Jor Aerith, Polly Depation, Gretz Droom, Alxa Kress, Katri, and as mentioned before, Jocasta Nu, Terrasanube, Dooku, and Sifo Dyas. Okay, so now on to Oberlin. Oberlin was an Ugor, which is a blob-like species. He was a High Republic Jedi Master and Archivist, and was the first of his species to join the Order. He often wore a suit that made him appear humanoid. The crazy thing about him, though, is that he could actually duplicate himself to appear at multiple places at once. He did this once to appear at the assault on Mulita and at the Velo Republic Fair. Later, he was shot by Lorna D, but survived due to being formless. He was left injured, though, as his body wasn't centralized when he was shot, and this, combined with the general side effects of him duplicating so many times, meant that he was left with mental damage, and afterwards he found himself trapped. He first appeared in the High Republic 4 comic in 2021. Now there's the 10th brother, Proset Dibs. He was a Mirror-Luca Jedi. In a mission to Hisrich, Dibs questioned the Jedi's ability to maintain peace and protect others after seeing so many deaths. He accused the Jedi of turning its back on its teachings, and the Council of serving itself. Windu defeated him and left him to the will of the Council. Windu then showed mercy on Dibs when the Council decided his fate, and Dibs was put on probation, forced to work in the archives. After Order 66, he fell to the dark side and became an Inquisitor. As an Inquisitor, he went after Ferren Barr, and when he, the 6th brother, and the Night Sister trapped Ferren Barr turned the Purge Troopers on them. The 10th brother tried to convince the clones not to kill them, but was killed by the clones. He first appeared in the Jedi of the Republic Mace Windu comic series. Next is Norun Bakarakana, otherwise known as Norun. She was a frozen Jedi Master in the High Republic era. She had a big reputation, and sadly was later killed by the Nameless on the Starlight Beacon. She first appeared in the Rising Storm. I included her on the Iceberg because the name's quite interesting and I kind of like the design of this character. Anyway, next is Ferren Barr. Ferren Barr was an Itochi Jedi Padawan who survived Order 66. Afterwards, he wanted to know how this happened, and so learned of Order 66, who Vader was, and of the Inquisitors. He wanted to avenge the Jedi Order by overthrowing the Empire. Towards these ends, he went against the Jedi Code, using the Force to control people, guaranteeing loyalty, and he assassinated the Imperial representative on Mon Cala. His aim was to create a war between Mon Cala and the Empire. He ended up being hunted by Darth Vader and the Inquisitors, and while they were there, Vader was called away. When the Inquisitors trapped him, he revealed to the Purge Troopers present that the Inquisitors were Jedi, and executed Order 66 while mind-tricking the clones. As the chaos ensued, he escaped along with his acolyte, Verla. Verla was actually a Force sensitive who was being trained by Barr. Barr sent her away to find another Jedi, but despite trying hard, she failed and settled down instead. She did eventually meet Luke Skywalker though. Anyway, back to Ferren Barr, he confronted and fought Vader, while Tarkin bombarded the planet. He admitted to killing the Imperial ambassador, and King Li Char of the planet ordered the surrender to the Empire, but it was too late. Ferren Barr was killed by Vader, but he foresaw that his actions would cause the Mon Calamari to retaliate against the Empire, and believed that his actions had secured the defeat of the Sith. This was sort of true, with the Mon Calamari aiding in the Battle of Endor. He first appeared in the Darth Vader 13 comic in 2017. Next is Azlin Rel. He was a High Republic Jedi Knight, and was a friend of his old master Arkoth. After the Battle of Jeddah, he found the bodies of 2 Jedi who had been killed by the Path of the Open Hand. After this, he was sent with other Jedi to investigate the Path of the Open Hand, and the Path attacked them in a battle known as the Night of Sorrow. There he encountered a Nameless, and was driven insane by hallucinations. He wrote about the Nameless in a journal. He then left the Order and fell to the dark side. He was obsessed with the Nameless, but his knowledge was lost to fear-induced madness. He eventually either pulled his eyes out or lost them. Later, Yoda found him, calmed him a bit, and brought him into the Jedi for assistance in understanding the Nameless. The Council didn't like it, but Yoda explained that they needed him. However, Rel went behind Yoda's back, causing a ship to crash, blocking a path to the Nameless, and sacrificing many lives at the same time. Azlin Rel first appeared in Midnight Horizon. Now there's Obratuk Glee. Obratuk Glee was a Parwan Jedi who could use multiple lightsabers at once due to his species. He had 5 lightsabers, each dedicated to Padawans he had trained in his millennium-long lifetime. He first appeared in the High Republic Adventures 6 comic in 2021. Alright, now to layer 7. This starts with Tu-Anh. He was a Twi'lek Jedi who fought in the Battle of Geonosis, attacking a tower at the edge of the Pedronaki arena. In Order 66, he was betrayed by Iskat Akaris, who turned to the dark side and went with the Empire. He was angry about this and was shot down by clones. His rage kept him alive, and the clones took him to Coruscant. He later met Akaris again as an Inquisitor and fought her, stabbing her in the chest, although missing both hearts. They later worked together multiple times and ended up entering a relationship. After one mission, they got drunk together, and Yuluna dropped control over his emotions. Vader sensed this and attacked Akaris. Yuluna blocked. The pair ran away as Vader chased. They ended up deciding to face Vader, but Vader lifted them in the air with the Force and killed them with each other's lightsabers. Tu-Anh Yuluna first appeared in the comic Darth Vader 19. Next, there's Hennix, Ty, and Vo. They were Padawans of Luke's new Jedi Order. Vo was competitive, always trying to outdo Ben Solo. Hennix was smart and funny, and thought the Force was a puzzle. Ty was friendly and reassuring. They survived Ben Solo's attack on Luke's Jedi Temple by being away when it happened. When they got back, they fought him, but Ben injured Hennix. They then followed Ben to a Jedi outpost on Elthrona by tracking his droid, and there they fought him. Ty got into Ben's head, and Ben pushed him away, while Hennix and Vo went on fighting. Ben pushed Vo off of a ledge, but tried to slow her fall. However, Hennix believed Vo to be dead and threw his lightsaber at Ben. Ben deflected the lightsaber, and it went back at Hennix, killing him. Ty helped slow Vo's fall, but wasn't perfect. Ben pushed the surviving Jedi into a Jedi outpost on the planet, and collapsed the entrance. Ty and Vo managed to get out, and Ty knew where Ben was going from looking into his mind, so they went after Ben and caught up with him, who was now with the Knights of Ren. Vo protected the local Mimbanese from the Knights of Ren while Ty fought Ben. Ty appealed to Ben, but just as it looked like he may be getting through, Ren snapped his neck. This led to Ben committing to the dark side, and going back and killing Vo. The three Jedi only appeared in the Rise of Kylo Ren comic series. Okay, so now on to Nubaron. Nubaron was a High Republic Jedi Master, who was the Shipmaster and Quartermaster of the Starlight Beacon. They were an amorphous being who resembled a cloud, and was capable of generating their own lightning. Being a cloud, they could only communicate telepathically with other Force sensitives. Their colour changed with their emotions. For example, they were lavender when calm, pink and purple when displeased, and scarlet when growing more heated. They floated around a lot, but also had a jar that they could sink into instead of hovering. Nubaron has only appeared in Out of the Shadows, but has been mentioned elsewhere. And can I just say, what a weird sounding species this is. Like, a species which is a cloud. Like, the High Republic have introduced some strange stuff, it feels like. Next is Aurra Sing. Aurra Sing was a Paladuvan, and while we may all be familiar with her as a bounty hunter, she actually joins the Jedi Order when she was younger, but ended up leaving, taking her lightsaber with her. She first appeared in The Phantom Menace, but the Jedi aspect was added later in reference books. Next is the 13th sister, Iskat Akaris. She was a Picorian Jedi Knight who willingly left the Jedi Order, betraying Yuluna. She ended up dying with him to Vader. She first appeared in the comic Darth Vader 19 in 2017. Now on to Eldra Catis. She was a Twi'lek Jedi Padawan who before the Phantom Menace was taken prisoner by the Zrex's cartel and sold at auction. G. Kra won, but Maul and some bounty hunters attacked him. Maul wanted to fight and kill Eldra Catis. The ship was sabotaged by the Zrex's cartel, and they crashed. Hunters went after them, and Maul freed and fought alongside Catis. Afterwards, they fought each other, and although Catis fought well, she was killed. Eldracatis first appeared in the Darth Maul comic series in 2017. After this is Akar Deshu. He was a Maran Jedi Knight who was a close friend to Quinlan Vos, working with him many times. He died before the end of the Clone Wars by his own stinger when pursuing Quinlan Vos. He only appeared in the book Dark Disciple. Next is Halsey and Nox. They were a Runan and an Ortolan Jedi Master and Padawan. In the Clone Wars, they fought to defend the Temple of Edith on Deveron, but were killed when Savage arrived. They first appeared in episodes of the Clone Wars. After this is Finn Urte. She was a Twi'lek Jedi. In the Clone Wars, she fought Maul and Savage alongside a Nikto Jedi at an Outer Rim spaceport. She died protecting the Nikto, who was killed not long after her. She first appeared in an episode of the Clone Wars. Now there's Dante. He was a Cathix Jedi who survived Order 66 and was taken to Fortress Inquisitorius to be tested for becoming an Inquisitor. In the final test, he tried to kill Barriss Offee in order to survive, but she killed him by force choke. He has only appeared in an episode of Tales of the Empire. Now there's Valerie Tide. She survived Order 66, hiding her identity and blending in with the locals on Athio 3. However, she was found, killed, and displayed in the Fortress Inquisitorius. She has only appeared in an episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi, but more information on her was provided in the reference book Star Wars Dawn of Rebellion, the visual guide. Next is Sora Bulk. He was a Weequay Jedi who trained Gladys Stoof as his Padawan. He fought in the Battle of Geonosis and survived, and was active in the Clone Wars. He first appeared in Attack of the Clones. After this is Jackson. He was a Togorian Jedi Knight, and as an initiate, he was friends with Wookiee Jedi Kursish and Trandoshan Jedi Gaeru. Years later, he travelled to Sullust to investigate the Caldana Syndicate and bumped into Count Dooku, who left the Order. They worked together and ended up surrounded by Caldana Syndicate guard. Dooku used his red lightsaber. Afterwards, Jackson didn't trust Dooku, and Dooku revealed that he made the red lightsaber. Dooku then used the Force to lift the blaster and shoot Jackson in the back. Jackson first appeared in the Age of Republic Count Dooku 1 comic. Finally, there's Sala Buddha. She was the sister to Depa Billaba. When she was younger, she was orphaned by pirates, but saved by Mace Windu. She fought in the Battle of Geonosis, and sadly died there. She was originally meant to be Depa Billaba, but due to actress Emma Howard not looking like Topeka O'Neil Jotty, she was made a different character. Sala Buddha has only appeared in Attack of the Clones. Next is Layer 8. This starts with Uob. Uob was a Gygoran Jedi Master from over 1,000 years before A New Hope. After the Corsair Wars, he took a preemptive approach to tackling threats, along with the Chrysalis Jedi Var Will. Var Will made him a unique lightsaber sniper rifle hybrid, which he could use to kill enemies from 100 meters away. Both of the Jedi were expelled from the Jedi Order, and purged within a decade. Uob only appeared in the Dr. Aphra comic series in 2016. After this is Ulic Qel-Droma. He was a Jedi Knight. According to myths, his master was killed by the Krath, and he volunteered to infiltrate and destroy the Krath. While doing this, he fell to the dark side on Empress Teta, and took over the Krath alongside Exar Kun. He was later redeemed, though, by being cut off from the Force. His lightsaber had a yellow-green blade. Ulic Qel-Droma has only been mentioned in Nexus of Power, which is a role-playing sourcebook. Next is Kursish. Kursish was a Wookiee Jedi initiate who was friends with Gaera and Jackson. He had visions of Gaera attacking him, and he acted on these visions, attacking Gaera. Luckily, Yoda intervened. Kursish has only appeared in the Yoda comic series. If you want to quickly learn more about him, you can check out my Every Wookiee Jedi video after this. Now there's Armar. Armar was a Jedi who survived Order 66 and was taken to Fortress Inquisitorius as a candidate for becoming an Inquisitor. He didn't believe that the Jedi had betrayed the Republic and tried to escape, but was killed by the Grand Inquisitor. He has only appeared in an episode of Tales of the Empire. Now there's Palo Hidala. They were a High Republic Jedi architect who designed the Starlight Beacon alongside the Galactic Republic's finest. They've only directly been mentioned in Light of the Jedi. Next is Gaira. Gaira was a Jedi initiate who was friends with Kursish and Jackson. She was attacked by Kursish, and after learning about the visions Kursish had been having, she chose to leave the Order. She has only appeared in the Yoda comic book series. Now I'm moving on to film extras, so this is quite self-explanatory, but what I've done here is I've grouped all of the extras we see in the background of various Star Wars media, including those from the Battle of Geonosis, such as Tarados Gon and Bolter Swan, and just put them on a spot together. Moving on, there's Tau Bota. They were a Jedi Master before the High Republic era, and were shown in heavily fictionalized holovids, as going on solo missions where he fought dozens of Sith minions at once and pulled Star Cruisers out of the sky. He has only appeared in 2 issues of the High Republic Adventures comics as a hologram. After this is Kart Kin and Bed and Jace. They were a Master and Padawan. Before the Phantom Menace, they were on Coruscant when they felt the presence of Maul watching them. Later, they fought in the Battle of Geonosis. They first appeared in Attack of the Clones. Next is Exar Kun. He was a former Jedi who fell to the dark side and became a Sith Lord. He led a Sith Empire alongside Ulic Qel-Droma around 4000 BBY. According to the Qel-Droma epics, the double-bladed lightsaber design dated back to him. Exar Kun was first mentioned in the role-playing sourcebook Nexus of Power. Now on to Tensu Run. He was a Jedi Knight who survived Order 66. He attacked an Imperial outpost on Regis Score, freeing prisoners, and as a result, he became a legend. He wanted to rebuild the Jedi Order, and Jedi Arun and Pandelasek believed he was the best chance of bringing the Order back. After the Grand Inquisitor killed his master Elan and a group of other Jedi, he decided to take the fight to the Inquisitors instead of fleeing. He first appeared in the Inquisitors 1 comic. At the time of recording, the rest of the comics in the series are yet to release. After this is Roran Korob. He was an Ithorian Jedi Master who protected Chancellor Palpatine in the Battle of Coruscant along with Shaak-Ti. In this battle he was killed by General Grievous, who took his lightsaber. Roran Korob was first mentioned in the reference book Star Wars Lightsabers, A Guide to Weapons of the Force. Next is Fongla Jur. He was a Jedi Master who owned the droid UOC-4, who became part of D-Squad. He has only appeared in the Clone Wars. Now there's Darth Krul, otherwise known as Radaki. He was a former Jedi Master who was part of the Lost 20. He fell to the dark side due to the belief that Jedi should retain family ties and wealth, and he became a Sith Lord. He was first mentioned in Dooku Jedi Lost. Finally, there's Ikar Oki, who was a Mon Calamari Jedi who was a background character in 5 episodes of the Clone Wars. Now going to Layer 9, which is where things get really interesting. So first there's Servil, who fought in the Sith Wars. She left behind testimonies about the use of light whips to defend against Sith using the forbidden forms. She was first mentioned in a test of courage. After this there's Tosan, who was a Zygerian Jedi Master. They were originally from Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes under the name Jedi Knight Guardian, and was brought into canon through the comic Age of Republic Obi-Wan Kenobi 1. Next is Hezo. He was a Solonian who was a former Padawan and technician, but was secretly an agent of Darth Sidious. He was instrumental in turning Jedi Isca Akaris to the dark side, but was killed by Akaris when she found out. He first appeared in The Rise of the Red Blade. Next is Charlin Plaka and Clefin Opus. They were a Twi'lek and Askadian Knight and Jedi Master. Charlin bullied Iskat Akaris. Both of them actually survived Order 66, along with a Zeltron Jedi, but were captured by pirates on Furhana. They were later found and killed by Akaris. Now there's the Four Masters. These were the Jedi who founded the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. Sculptures of them were carved into massive pylons, displayed at the temple's formal entrance. Next there's Karok Hitak. He was a Jedi who was around before the High Republic era. He owned a plasma shield that later came into the possession of Salandra Sho. He apparently went on a quest so far beyond the Outer Rim that it took him 20 years to get back. Hitak claimed that the shield was the only thing keeping him going when he was lost. He has only been mentioned in Shield of the Jedi, a story from the High Republic, Tales of Light and Life. Now there's Riley Howell. He was a Jedi Master and historian who collected many early accounts of explorations and codifications of the Force in 2 volumes of the Ionomica, aka the Sacred Jedi Texts. The character was named after Riley Howell, a big Star Wars fan and a University of North Carolina at Charlotte student who died stopping a gunman at the university. Lucasfilm reached out to the family, telling them that they had created a character based on Riley as a tribute. He was first mentioned in the Rise of Skywalker Visual Dictionary. Next is Garen Rand. She was a Jedi initiate around the same time as Kenobi. The night before she was due to go to Ilum for the gathering, she left to find her father, who she had received false visions of, depicting him in danger. She made a deal with Black Sun Lieutenant Nodrus K to be taken off-world in exchange for Eden Silver. Kenobi caught up to her and decided to help, as he didn't want life without her friendship and comfort. Kay then realised that they were Jedi and cuffed them. They escaped, and Kenobi returned to the Order, but Rand didn't. It's unknown what happened to Rand from here. She only appeared in the Obi-Wan 1 comic. After this, there's Harley Cogra. They were a Verk Jedi Master in the High Republic era, who wrote the Chronicles of the Jedi. This was a highly detailed book about the High Republic Jedi and what they did, to ensure that their bravery and sacrifices would be remembered. Harley Cogra was first mentioned in Chronicles of the Jedi. Next is Sislin Mur. She was a Mirialan Jedi Master who trained Mace Windu. Her and Mace one time confronted a false Jedi prophet who Windu planned to kill, but Mur stopped him, telling him that the matter should be left to the court of law. She only appeared in the Jedi of the Republic, Mace Windu 4 comic. Next is Tu-Anh. She was a Jedi Master. While negotiations were taking place between the Separatists and the Sugi, she investigated the deal without telling the Jedi or the locals. She was killed while spying on a meeting between a Sugi and Magna Guards, and her body was found by locals and shown to Anakin and Obi-Wan. Tu-Anh has only appeared in unfinished episodes of the Clone Wars as a corpse. Moving on, there's Alia. According to a commonly told story, she was a Jedi who was sent into exile on Dathomir in 600 BBY. There she trained women in the ways of the Force, leading to the birth of the Dathomirians, who split into clans of witches. The Jedi Council had no records of her though, and the Night Sisters had conflicting stories about their origins. She wrote the Book of Lore, a Night Sister book portraying the Jedi in a bad light. Alia was first mentioned in Guide to the Galaxy, Denizens of Dathomir, in Star Wars Build the Millennium Falcon 59. Obviously, it seems that the story of her starting the Night Sisters is more of a myth now, due to Ahsoka suggesting a different origin. Next is Mil Alibeth. She was a Zabrak Jedi initiate. She had powerful empathetic powers, which she struggled to control, and she experienced severe nausea when exposed to anything relating to combat or violence. Due to this, she attempted to cut herself off from the Force, but discovered that her unique connection to the Force could be used to give medical and spiritual assistance to wounded Jedi fighting in the Clone Wars. Alibeth actually survived Order 66, along with her friend Vivert Stagg, and together they survived through the entire reign of the Empire. By the sequels era, the pair had become bounty hunters, working with Hunter Moir Geranda. After The Last Jedi, they were sent by Kylo Ren to capture Rey. Geranda caught Rey, Chewbacca, and Lumpa Woru, who had been celebrating Life Day, but the trio escaped. Mila Alibeth first appeared in Brotherhood. After this is Tavoka. They were a Wookiee Jedi Master who trained Plo Koon. They've only been mentioned in Star Wars Workbook, 2nd grade reading. Finally, there's Hulick. He was a Rhodian Jedi Knight who flew alongside Anakin Skywalker at the Battle of Sedratis. He was killed in Order 66, but before he died from his injuries, he got to his ship and set a course for Rhodia. There his family built a secret mausoleum for him, and years later, his niece entrusted his lightsaber to Luke Skywalker. The lightsaber was purple. He has only appeared in Heir to the Jedi. And now onto the final layer, Layer 10, made up of some of the most obscure Jedi in all of canon. I'm so excited for this one. So first up, we've got Enyo, who was a Twi'lek Jedi instructor in Luke's Jedi Order. She has only appeared in Shadow of the Sith. After this, there's Fogo Charu. He was a Jedi Master who was the author of The Wisdom of Master Fogo Charu, Jedi, which is a book entirely dedicated to fishing. I just think that's absolutely hilarious, like a Jedi writing this big masterful wisdom guide, and it's just about fishing. Fogo Charu has only been mentioned in The Living Force. Next is Ume Horlatha. He was an ancient Bim Jedi Master. His meditations were so frequent and so deep that others often thought he was napping. He has only appeared in Rise of the Red Blade. Now there's Resteli Quist. She was the chief librarian of the Jedi Archives at some point before the Clone Wars. She has only appeared in Dooku Jedi Lost. Next, there's Lan Tik, a Nikto Jedi. The reason why he's here and why I've given him so much importance is because his death led to Jar Jar Binks getting his hand on a lightsaber. Also, Jar Jar Binks saved Captain Rex using it, leading to this iconic image. After this, there's Jedi from Star Wars Uprising. In the mobile game Star Wars Uprising, we saw 4 Jedi who survived Order 66. These were Zubain Ankanori, Mususiel, Kandra, and Nudge. They hid in a Jedi shrine on Anoat, but were discovered by the Empire, and an Inquisitor was sent after them. Mususiel stayed behind to buy the others time to escape, but the Inquisitor tracked the others as well, with Ankanori being killed as the remaining 2 escaped. These 2 Jedi hid on Burning Con, sneaking out only to hunt for food. The Inquisitor later returned and killed them both. All of these Jedi have only appeared in Star Wars Uprising, but Zubain Ankanori was also mentioned in Star Wars Helmet Collection 79. Now there's Vonkel. They were a Jedi Master who befriended the Sith Lord of Gem. They have only been mentioned in the End of History short story in Star Wars Insider 154. Next, there's Tu-Anh and Ka-Ung Fu. According to a story Yoda had heard from his master, Tu-Anh was the strongest and wisest Jedi of his time, and Ka-Ung Fu was also a wise and strong Jedi. When Tu-Anh's apprentice died, he decided to have a good time with his friends, playing music and singing instead of mourning. He even left the body lying there. Ka-Ung Fu sent a message to give condolences to Tu-Anh, but the messenger was outraged. Tu-Anh explained that no one could escape death, and that it only meant becoming a different part of the Force, so he thought it was better to sing and laugh, rather than cry. Ka-Ung Fu accepted this with a smile. Yoda didn't know if these Jedi were real or fictional, and they have only been mentioned in the junior novel, The Empire Strikes Back, So You Want to Be a Jedi. Can I just say that this is a wild story? This was the last thing I was expecting when I was looking up a bunch of Jedi. A story about Jedi dancing when a Padawan has just died. Like, what? I don't know how they came up with that. Anyway, next is Uvel. Uvel was a Jedi Master who survived Order 66. He feared that the knowledge and artifacts of the Jedi Order would be destroyed as well as the Jedi. So he went to Antron Bak, an antiques dealer, and entrusted him with a starship containing many artifacts, including lightsabers and scrolls, and told him to hide in an abandoned Geonosian colony on a nameless moon. Uvel has only been mentioned in the short story The End of History in Star Wars Insider 154. After this, there's Nakmed. He trained in the ways of the Force as a Padawan, but left the Order before the Clone Wars to pursue his own path. He met a woman and had a daughter. After Order 66, he believed the reports of a Jedi uprising given by Palpatine. He was eventually hunted down by the Grand Inquisitor, and the pair fought, with Nakmed breaking the Grand Inquisitor's lightsaber and fleeing to Pambar, where he spent the rest of his life. And he actually survived into the New Republic era, dying knowing his family was safe. He has only appeared in the young adult novel Force Collector. Next is the third brother. His actions and fate remain secret. He was first mentioned in the reference booklet Darth Maul and Other Followers of the Dark Side. Now there's Chubor. Chubor was an Alina Jedi who led the Republic's effort to evacuate Maran refugees during the Separatist genocide of their people. He begged for Dooku to let them save the people, or at least the younglings, but Dooku refused, killing Chubor and all of the refugees. He has only appeared in Dark Disciple. Next there's Sol Mogra and Nil Idith. These two Jedi were once Master and Padawan. Sol became a Jedi Knight, and Nil was a Jedi Master. Nil Idith was thought to be a modest and upstanding Jedi, but this was only through burying his dark emotions in an amulet. Because of this, he would be consumed by the darkness in the night and kill people in the Coruscant underworld. He was later killed by an assassin, and the amulet was given to Sol Mogra. Mogra was then influenced by the amulet, as his old master had been, and in the day he searched for the culprit of the killings in the Coruscant underworld, which he'd committed at night. He eventually realized that he was the culprit, and was very ashamed. He let the darkness consume him, and fled into the shadows. Sol Mogra and Nil Idith have only appeared in the short story, The Dark Mirror, in the book Dark Legends. Next, there's Jacera's master. She was an Inquisitor who travelled to Dathomir, where she trained a Night Sister as an Inquisitor to be used against other Inquisitors. This Night Sister was Jacera, and Jacera later killed her with her own lightsaber. Jacera's master was first mentioned in the role-playing adventure book Ghosts of Dathomir. Now there's the Wanderer. The Wanderer was a Jedi that carried a green lightsaber and shield. He was a mystical figure who would appear and aid the city of Solace on Karosha. The Wanderer saved the city 3 times, first from pirates, next from creatures accidentally awoken by mining, and last from a storm. He has only appeared in the short story, The Wanderer, in the book Myths and Fables. Author George Mann said that there were discussions of the character being Qui-Gon Jinn, but whether the Jedi was him was up to interpretation. After this, there's Aurelon. He was a Jedi Master and Seer, who was from a gaseous species that had to reside in a tank. He often worked with Qui-Gon Jinn when Qui-Gon was a Padawan. He has only been mentioned in Dooku Jedi Lost. Next is Liar Farseeker. He was a Jedi Master who lacked Force sensitivity. He wrote the Poetics of a Jedi and other texts that would be used for teaching in the Order. The Poetics actually became one of the sacred texts.
The sacred Jedi text!
He wrote that the mind of a Jedi can move mountains, but the heart of the Jedi can move souls. Liar Farseeker only appeared in Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, a junior novel, as a voice, and has been mentioned in the short story What a Jedi Makes in Stories of Jedi and Sith. Now there's Kira Vantala. She was a Jedi who survived Order 66. When an orphanage was being visited by a mysterious phantom, who was actually the Grand Inquisitor, and children were being taken, Kira stepped in and fought off the Grand Inquisitor and saving Force-sensitive child, Elish. However, when Kira went to check the body of the Grand Inquisitor, it wasn't there. Kira Vantala has only appeared in the short story, The Orphanage, in Dark Legends. Finally, there's Karmoon Collie and Selrak Elios. These two Jedi were named on a list of Jedi survivors of the Purge 5 years after Order 66 in the comic Darth Vader 19 from 2017, and they haven't been mentioned since. Karmoon Collie was actually named after the comic penciler Giuseppe Camuncoli, imitating his surname, and Selrak Elios was named after comic writer Charles Soule, spelling his name backwards. And that's the Canon Jedi Iceberg completed. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey, and please let me know which Jedi you found the most interesting in the comments. Also, there should be links in the cards of this video to videos discussing some of these Jedi in more detail, so if you want more Jedi content, feel free to check those out. Also, I'm planning to do another iceberg in the future on the Sith, so feel free to stick around for that if you want. Anyway, that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed, and we hope to see you later at Vault Holocron.